A quick advisory. Today we talk about suicide, and it may trigger some people. I have linked resources down below. If you are having any thoughts of suicide, please go and get help and know that you are not alone. Thank you for tuning in, and now let's get into today's podcast. These episodes are intended for mature audiences. Viewer and listener discretion advised. Hey guys, welcome to the first episode of Stories of a Dandelion. I am so grateful that you all decided to tune in, and today I am sharing my story. I feel it's only right when I'm asking other people to share their stories, and I haven't shared mine yet, so here it is, the first episode. So, my name is Gina, and I was born in Virginia in 1996. I lived there for a little while, at least until I believe I was 2 or 3, and then we moved to Georgia. Around that time, that is when I went to preschool, and after preschool, we moved to Belgium. And in Belgium, I lived there from the time I was 5 until I was 18, graduated high school. So I did all my schooling in Belgium, primarily because my mom retired when I was around 9 or 10 years old. And because of that, she got a job right there where we were in Belgium. So I got the opportunity to do all of my schooling there. Pretty close to not being able to do my senior year, but luckily they allowed my mom to stay an extra year so I could finish and graduate with all my friends. But before we get there, let's start at the beginning. Born in Virginia to both my parents. My parents were married for a year and then they got divorced. And after that, I grew up between my mom and my dad for a little while, for at least the first 4 years of my life. And then from 5 to 18, my mom was a single parent as she was moved across the waters to Europe. And my dad stayed here and was stationed here in the United States. So my dad at the beginning came to visit a lot more often, but then it got to the point where it's too expensive to be flying to Europe all the time, which completely makes sense. The tickets are not cheap. And so I ended up coming to visit him in the summer times. He would come pick me up. Once I got old enough, I would get on a plane and meet him there with some of my friends. They lived in the same place. So, growing up, I grew up around a lot of different cultures. My mom told me that my first best friend was Turkish. I don't remember her, but I think that's absolutely amazing. And my second best friend were American and Hungarian. I'm still in touch with them today. Still get to see how their life is going. And it's just amazing to see, the community we had and the community we have, that no matter where a Shapian may be, we are there to help each other out whenever is needed. So it was an amazing community to be raised in. Around the beginning times of being in Belgium, a lot of my friends moved around a lot. I would have a friend for a year and they would move away. I would have a friend for maybe 2 to 3 years and then they would move away. And I was constantly in Belgium. I never moved. So my constants in Belgium ended up being my teachers and a couple of basketball players that I ended up starting to play basketball with. I started playing basketball when I was 5. I picked it up not too long after we got to Belgium. And by the age of 7, my mom signed me up for a club basketball team in Belgium. And that is where I met my Belgian friends, who became my second constant. I grew up with them from the time I was 7 until I was 18, and we are all still friends to this day. I love those girls. It was absolutely amazing to be able to play basketball with them because it did not matter that we didn't speak the same language. We became friends because of basketball, but we stayed friends because of the love that we have for each other. And I would go to bat for those girls any day of the week. So love them, miss them. And it's so lovely whenever I get the opportunity to go visit them. And hopefully one day soon they'll be able to all come to the States together and come visit me. But growing up, I didn't learn French. I know, I should have learned it. I definitely should have learned French, but it just didn't happen. The girls that I played with wanted to learn English, and a lot of them did learn English because one of them's a teacher. One of them wanted to be an English teacher and ended up not being an English teacher. But yeah, a couple of the girls speak English, and so now it's my turn to learn French. So I'm a little behind, just 20 years behind, but it's fine. I will catch up and I'll learn French and I'll be able to speak with all of them. But regardless, even to this day, like, we figure out how to communicate with each other through our love. And so it's just so amazing. But moving on, growing up with them and them being my constant was amazing. Like I said, throughout elementary school, people were coming in and out, and until about my 7th grade year, when people started becoming more constant. And that was because a lot of their parents were also retired and they found a job in Belgium and they thought it'd be a great opportunity. And so they moved there, and with that, the jobs lasted longer, which means friendships lasted longer. And those friendships turned into family-like friendships. And so I had my church family, and I also had my military family. When we first got to Belgium, my godmother was there, so that was amazing because she was also in the military, and at the time she was stationed in Belgium, and so she was the reason we moved to Belgium. But then she ended up leaving a year later. But because of her, I met, my mama Karen, and my papa Franz, and my uncle Tony. So I have some pretty great, beautiful, awesome, amazing adults in my life that helped me become the woman I am sitting here looking at you today, or that you are listening to today. Other than basketball, I don't think I played any. Well, that's not true. Other than basketball, I did do karate for a minute, which taekwondo. And then I did Girl Scouts, which I didn't like. And I played soccer. Another thing I didn't too much enjoy. I love soccer. I just didn't love the rain. And I didn't love running. And those are two prominent things that happened during soccer season. It always rains in Belgium, and running is just a part of the game. And for me, in basketball, yes, there's running, but I could choose when I ran, So it wasn't a problem for me in basketball. But yeah, I played soccer, and then once I got to high school, I tried volleyball, and I really enjoyed volleyball, but I didn't play much because I also was still playing for my Belgian team. And with my Belgian team, we play from August until May, so most of my school year, I was playing basketball, and so I played my freshman year, my senior year, which was so much fun. I didn't have really any mental health issues or problems growing up. I was a happy-go-lucky kid. I was sometimes the class clown. It depended on the class, but mostly I was a good kid in class. I just loved, talking to my friends and catching up with them, and the teachers loved me, so that was a plus on that side. It wasn't until high school when I started having mental issues, but I do remember one time when I was a kid, my mom, I believe it was before she retired. I had a really bad dream that she would go downrange and that she would be killed. And it was super vivid. I started screaming and yelling and crying, and my mom runs into my room and she said, "Gina, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong?" And I said, "Mom, I saw you die. You died." And she's like, "No, sweetheart, I'm here." And I was like, "No, Mom, you died." And so I told her about my dream, and the crazy thing was she was supposed to go. If she would have stayed in, she would have went downrange. And so she got out, after doing her 20 years of service, which I'm very proud of my mom for doing. And she went into the civilian sector for the military. And so after that dream, like, it's still vivid in my head now. It was hard on me, but I kind of, being a kid, you push it out of the way. The likelihood of it happening now is 0 to 9 because she got out of the military. But once I got to high school, that is when other issues started to pop up. My friends that were like big sisters to me, we played basketball together. We went to church together and did like a whole bunch of family stuff together, Thanksgiving and, and different things like that. They graduated high school. They were 2 years old, 2 years older than me, and they graduated. And that was my sophomore year in high school, and their senior year, obviously. My sophomore year was an amazing year. We won the European Basketball Championship, and all of sports was just doing amazing. Volleyball got second place. I believe baseball got first or second. I forget. And football did well that year as well. Like, it was just absolutely all across the board an amazing year for sports and just an amazing year for shape. And when that year was done, it was just really, really hard for me. My junior year came, and I just couldn't focus. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what I was feeling. Depression does run in my family, and I just didn't know what was happening, And so I was just super sad all the time, but, I was trying to push through it, not really understanding that I was going through this depression in my life because I had lost my big sisters, And at the same time, I ended up losing my best friend in that same year, slowly. And so it was just a whole bunch of things just piling up that year, my big sister's leaving, the people who gave me advice and helped me through, my freshman and sophomore year, losing my best friend, having to figure out what college I want to go to, if I'm going to stay in Europe or go back to the States and go to college. Like, all these big decisions were happening in my life for the first time. And for me, change wasn't a constant thing. Even though being a military brat, I didn't change constantly. I had a constant, which was staying in Belgium. The changes would just happen around me. And I think because for so long growing up, friends came and go after a year or two. But when you had friends who became family, of who you were hanging out with all the time and stuff, that was my first time, ever feeling like, oh crap. I felt like I lost somebody or something in a way. And I do believe like I had abandonment issues just because, my relationship with my dad at the time was not the greatest. Me and him and our communication wasn't going well. And what I needed as a father figure wasn't the picture of what he saw of what was needed as a father figure, which I believe it's very important for parents and kids to talk to get through to their kids, to be like, hey, this is what or to the kids to get to their dad, but I need this from you because, I need to know this, or whatever it may be. And for me, I was like, Dad, he saw more of a provider role, and I needed him to be more of like a loving father role. And it completely made sense. He grew up in the lifestyle at the time of being a provider, and that's how you be a father. And when we finally had that conversation, everything changed, He started being the father I needed, but it took until I was in college for that conversation to happen. So while I was in high school, I felt like I was abandoned by, my sisters, but that's not what happened. Looking back now at what happened, that's not what happened at all. I wasn't abandoned by them. They went to college, they lived their life. But in the moment, it just kind of felt like an abandonment. Like, it felt like, again, people I loved left. And when you're 16 and you're going through all these different hormones and figuring out your life, you don't know that's what it means, you know? So, you know, you don't know that's what that means. So, once I got through that my junior year, I became good friends with my best friend now. We became best friends my senior year. So my next year, you know, I played volleyball. So happy I did play volleyball. It was my senior year. I thought that you had to play 3 sports in order to get like the sports person of the year, and it was girl or boy. And so I was like, all right, let's play 3 sports. And that was because everybody before me who got that award played 3 sports. Like they played like in the fall, winter, and spring. So everybody thought that. Even the people who were like, oh yeah, I'm playing this because like I want to get sports man of the year, but that's not it. Like it was just, you were the best player of any sport. That's not how the school explained it. But I wanted to play, 1 because of that, but 2 also I wanted to hang out with my best friend. So I played volleyball, had a good time. Then I went to and played basketball my senior year, which I got the opportunity to switch my talent and use it in a different way and be a coach. And so I was playing and coaching my team at the same time, which was just so much fun. But it was like the weirdest experience ever, but it gave me my first experience to be able to know that I could coach and see that, you know, it get through to the person or to the girls. And we ended up getting 3rd place. Nobody thought we would get 3rd place. So proud of those girls still to this day. They showed how much heart they had, and they showed like the determination to be successful and to do something that they did not think they could do, and seeing that they could accomplish something that was impossible to them at one time. And that really gave me hope just for even like just the future. But played basketball that year. Didn't do anything for spring. It's my senior year. It's the end of it. I'm going to enjoy it. All year, I wasn't really going to school because the only classes I needed were 3 of them. So I had like half days on gold days and full days on green days. And gold days, I was really just being an avid tutor. And then like I was doing one of those career classes, but we didn't really have like career, quote unquote, if you're not watching, I am finger quoting, we didn't have career classes, so you just went and picked whatever teacher you liked the best basically and hung out with them. And so I would hang out with JRTC, loved JRTC, loved Sergeant Ewing, and I would hang out with them for my hour, and then I would go be an avid tutor and hang out in there for like 30 minutes and then go to lunch and be done with the day. So my senior year was very chill, very laid back, and I had applied to college. I wanted to go to UNC Pembroke, which is in Lumberton, North Carolina. I wanted to go there because I have family history there. I am Lumbee Indian, and so I wanted to go there and, you know, learn more about my heritage, learn more about my past, my ancestors. And so, guess what? Your girl got in. The night I got in is a funny one. So, the night I found out that I got into the college of my dreams at the time, I was on the phone with my mom. She called me. She said, there's a package here for you. And we all know, like, if you haven't graduated high school yet, I'm going to tell you right now. We all know, like, they try to be like, oh, have you made it in yet? Like, no, we know if you get the big package from the college that you got into the college. If you don't get the big package from college, you didn't make it into college, okay? Like, you didn't make it to that college. It's literally like, we regret to inform you, either you're on a wait list or you didn't make it. So that's just a heads up for you right there, because they be sending them packages to let you know, like, here's our books, this is what you're going to be doing, this is how our campus looks, and all this stuff. Even though you already know how the campus looks, they want to make you know that you are appreciated, and they're thanking you for spending all your money on their college so that you can be in debt when you graduate, but they have a pretty campus, okay? But I found out I got in. My mom was like, the big packet came in. She's like, I think you got in. And I was like, okay. Like, at the time, I didn't think anything of it other than like, okay, I think I got in. And she opens it. She's like, you got in. And I slam my phone down. I slammed my phone down on the table, and it completely shuts off. My friends are looking at me like, Gina, what the heck is wrong with you? And I was like, I got into college. And they're like, you got into college? I was like, yeah. I was like, but I think I broke my phone. And this is like an iPhone, I think it was like an iPhone 4. So this is an iPhone 4, and it's like the small little like compact iPhone, right? And I just, and so I take my best friend's phone and I call my mom on it, and I'm like, hey mom, sorry about that. I think I broke my phone. I will call you later, but thank you for telling me I made it in. She's like, yeah, just have fun, hang out. And so me and my friends are downtown. We have a shot. We're like, whoa, let's go. You made it into college. Such a fun night. Such a fun night. But yeah, I made it into college. Graduated, had a graduation night. That is something I'm going to allow you guys to hear about my graduation night in high school for the first time in another episode, because I just found out the full story when I recorded with my friend who will be the first guest on this podcast. That is a story that you'll have to wait until episode 3. So keep coming back. But graduated high school and I went to college. I was excited about college. I was energized and I was ready. At least I thought I was. And, you know, before I went to college, I went and got my driver's license, because overseas you have to be 18 to drive. And it's legal to drink at 16, but you have to be 18 in order to drive. So I didn't have my driver's license until I got back. So I finally got my driver's license. My dad had my car, and I had my Mini Cooper, and I was ready to go to college. The night before I went to my dorm, I was driving to go to my dorm and be ready for my first day of school. And I had this huge anxiety attack. Mind you, I'm in the middle of nowhere at the same time. But whenever your panic attacks come, they do not care. And so my anxiety got the best of me. I was driving and I was singing. And as I was getting closer, because, it's about my 100th, I don't know, like 50th, 30th to like 50th time, I don't know, driving down this road going to my school, because my dad and me made sure I knew the route. My heart just started racing, and I couldn't breathe, and I couldn't breathe, and I was sitting in my car, and I pulled over, and I just remember I couldn't breathe. It's dark around me. It's not light at all. It's dark, pitch black, dark. And it gets dark early because it's like around fall time. So it's the whole time has changed and everything. So it's getting dark earlier. And I'm just sitting in my car and I can't breathe. I can't catch my breath. And I called my dad and I said, Dad, I can't breathe. And he's like, Gina, calm down. He's like, you're having a panic attack. Why are you having a panic attack? I was like, I don't know. I have no idea. I'm freaking out. And I ended up having to turn around and go back to my dad's house that night and wake up earlier that morning and to get to school and to get to my dorm. What it turned out to be is a panic attack. The panic attack was caused by my first day. I was scared of something new. I was scared of the change. It was a huge change that was happening in my life. The foundation I once had, I no longer had anymore. The biggest support in my life was halfway across the world, because once I graduated high school, no, that did not mean that my mom came with me. No, she still had a job and she had to wait until she got another one. honestly, yes, it was hard. But I am at the same time grateful that she stayed overseas for an extra 2 years, because I had to grow up, one, on my own, but also two, when I came to visit, I got to experience home for, a little while. And I got to see my friends again, and I hung out with my friends, and we got to do different trips. Now that we got older, me and my best friend, we went to Mallorca, and then we went to the Philippines. So I still, her being in Europe at those first 2 years was the best thing for me, because I still was connected to my foundation, which was, where I lived all of my life, basically, and my friends, and my two best friends. So my three best friends. So it was really important to be there and be able to still have those first 2 years. But it was still hard being over here by myself, my first semester, I was doing pretty good. My first half of my semester and my first semester in a whole, I did really well. I didn't really talk to anybody the first half of my semester. I stuck to myself, and I was really just reading in my books, and I was talking to friends that I still had overseas and conversating with them and stuff like that. And my mom asked me one day, why aren't you making friends? Like, why aren't you out making friends? And when I realized, like, I didn't really know how to make friends, and I know it sounds weird, but I made all my friends through sports. Like, it wasn't like I went up to people all the time and was like, hey, do you want to be my friend? Like, I made friends through sports. Because of sports, I would talk to people and stuff like that. And I was a popular kid in school, so sometimes I just made friends through other popular kids. At the beginning of college, I didn't know what to do, right? I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to talk to people. Being a military brat and you see another military brat, like, that's a connection right there. So most of these people, like, most of the people that I was going to school with, most of my peers, they weren't military brats. I don't even know if one was at the first college I decided to go to. And so making friends, like, I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know how to be like, oh, you're not a military brat. Like, where did you grow up? Like, I didn't know. I didn't have that social skill, which is kind of weird and kind of bad. So I have developed it over time, the social skill of making friends. I was kind of forced to make friends when my roommate was, like, working on something in my room, and I didn't want to be in my room anymore because she was being very loud. So I went downstairs to the lobby, and I saw this group of people hanging out, but I was like, I'm gonna go sit over here. They ended up calling me over. Yeah, so I was the lone wolf. They ended up calling me over, and we started talking, and they became my group of friends. My first semester, the second half of my semester, I hung out with them all the time. And it was great. Love them. They're awesome people. They're amazing people. We've all gone our separate ways now. But that time that we had our first semester, because a lot of us had ended up deciding to switch schools. I was the first one. I decided to go to Methodist after my first semester at UNC Pembroke. And I decided to go to Methodist University. Looking back at it, should I have stayed at Pembroke? Most likely, yes. But I decided to go to Methodist. And honestly, I ended up making a lot of friends there as well. And it ended up being a great experience for me in a lot of ways. But, we're about to talk about the negatives as well. But after my first semester, I made the switch to Pembroke. I'm not Pembroke. I made the switch to Methodist. Sorry for that. And I made that switch because of basketball. I wanted to play basketball, so I decided that Pembroke wasn't it anymore. I would have had to wait a whole nother semester, and I wanted to play now. I wanted to play in that moment, and so I left. And it was because of, even though I made friends at Pembroke, there were a lot of them saying that they were going to leave Pembroke and, not stay. So what was the point of me staying? And I miss basketball. by the time my senior year in high school, playing basketball felt like a job. It felt like it was work because that was all I was doing. Up until, I don't know, I guess up until high school, like, it was fun. It was still fun in high school as well, but it started becoming more of a job because I had to also play for my high school team, and I couldn't miss any high school basketball games, but I could miss a couple of basketball games with my Belgian team because it would have made me ineligible to play if I missed a high school game for a Belgian club game, and I already knew my Belgian club didn't need me to play. So my high school team was the complete for 3 months what I focused on, while also playing in, Belgian games when I could. And because of that, basketball is just so constant. And even though it's only 3 months out of the year, of which it's so constant, those 3 months were important months, even for my Belgian team. Like, there was a couple games where I had to be at both games. And so I would go from my Belgian game to my shape game, or from my shape game to my Belgian game, because they were both important. And so by the time I became a senior, and my last year to play with my Belgian team was my junior year, because the girls that I played with, the league decided that they didn't want to renew our team anymore, and they didn't want us to play. They didn't want to fund our P2, our team, to play another year. And so we all said we're not going to play then, and I decided to just play for my high school team. The other girls decided to go find another club, and I could have found it, went to a club with them, but because it was my senior year and I said, I don't have to play basketball for 10 months, then yeah, I'm going to enjoy my senior year. I'm going to enjoy being a kid. And I believe that is probably why I lost the passion by the time I was a senior, because I was just playing basketball so much. Most people, I don't think they play 10, I don't know, maybe they do play 10 months out of the year. I think it's like 9 or 8 to 9 months out of the year. But I was playing basically the whole year. And so to take a break was amazing to me. And so I decided that I wasn't going to play in college when I graduated. But then I went to college, and the one thing that I knew I could do and be good at and make friends through was basketball. So I decided to go and play basketball at Methodist University. I ended up making friends with the girls that was on my basketball team, but it did not make me any happier. It actually made me more miserable. There was new requirements of me in basketball, and those requirements were understandable. Some of those requirements were understandable. Let me correct that. Some of them. But others just, didn't make sense. It was also interfering with my schooling. Once I got to Methodist University, my grades went belly up. Hey guys, I just wanted to take a quick break and say thank you for listening to the Stories of a Dandelion podcast. If you like this message that I am trying to share, please go ahead and follow the podcast, as well as share it with all your family and friends. Thank you again, and let's get back to the podcast. I was failing almost, I don't know, I think I definitely failed English twice. Yeah, I know, right? English, I speak it. Commas and periods, guys. Commas and periods. Anyway, I just wasn't doing good. I think that second semester, my GPA went from like a 3 something to like a 2.4, like not that low, but 2.5, which is the bare minimum that you need to actually play basketball. It was horrible. I had to do summer school. My first year, because I came in right before the basketball season, well, right after a little bit of the basketball season started, I only had 2 weeks of Christmas break. And so I went to Belgium for 2 weeks. And that was it. And I think that was one of the hardest things ever because, I could have had a month in Belgium with my mom and with my friends, but I only had 2 weeks. And since it was my first time back and to get reconnected with my foundation again, it just didn't happen, so that foundation again was not there. I came back and I threw myself into basketball. I threw myself into it, and it didn't work out the way I wanted it to. I didn't play as much as I thought as much as I wanted to play. And it just wasn't the best environment for me to thrive. And because of that, schooling struggled and I struggled. I wasn't in the right mental even headspace to even be on the basketball team. My mind was in Belgium, and that was because my support system was there. I moved back and I had, my dad, but our relationship was still struggling at the time. We didn't really know how to communicate with one another yet. We didn't really know how to be around one another because we were not strangers to one another, but we didn't know how to be in each other's lives constantly. And because of that made us kind of strangers in our relationship at the time. And thank goodness for my light-skinned family that were not too far away from me at Methodist University. They took care of me. I went to church. That was my foundation that stayed and that kept me through college. I kept going to church, and I went to the church that my light-skinned family went to. And they would always invite me over for Sunday dinner whenever they were at church. And so I would always say yes because, the college student was broke. And if she can get a good Sunday meal, she was going to get it. And she could get leftovers. Come on, I had a fridge. I was bought a fridge my freshman year. I had a fridge to put them in and microwave as well. So definitely went and had Sunday lunch or Sunday dinners with them. And that really changed things, having Sunday dinner with them. I had another one of my military church families, lived here in Georgia, and they invited me over for Thanksgiving. And so I went to have Thanksgiving with them my first year. So there's just a lot of support from my military family to help me be, as mentally well as I could. And I thank them so much for that, but even with that, unfortunately, I was just still struggling so bad. I had my eczema acting up so bad, and I was just really, really stressed. And so I went from my second semester in the summer, where I did 2 classes over the summer, and I went to the next year, and I went back to Europe in the summertime, got to spend longer time because basketball season didn't start till later, so I had my whole summer in Europe. But I felt like when I went back, it was fun, of course. I had fun with my friends, we hung out, we had a good time, we went out and partied. But I was constantly being asked this question: you're playing basketball? That's awesome, you're putting shape on the map. And all these, these things that were being told to me. And I just kept realizing that, these expectations were on me, And my mom was so proud of me, she's playing basketball, she's going to college, and I didn't want to let anybody down, I was a huge people pleaser. Still working on that. But I was a big people pleaser for my mom, the people I care the most about, which is just my mom and my dad and my family and my friends. I'm a huge people pleaser because I want them to be happy. But I'm starting to change that, I'm starting to put myself first sometimes, and knowing that it's okay to say no, knowing that it's okay to not be a people pleaser and not have to do everything that is expected of you. And do what you are passionate about, what you believe you were put on this earth to do, which includes this podcast for me. But at the time, I didn't know that. And so I would come back to the States and I would continue to play basketball, at least try to. And what happened was my skin started to bubble over. I have eczema. So my eczema started to really, really get bad. One night I call my mom. I'm on the phone crying. I'm telling her I can't do it anymore. I send a picture of what my eczema is looking like, and she's like, Gina, you have to, like, you can't do this anymore. You have to quit. Like, why didn't you tell me that your skin was stressing out this much? Like, my skin was stressing out. My schooling was down the toilet. Like, I didn't have time to do school and play basketball at the same time. Like, and it's just my mental health was not there. And once I called her, I said, Mom, I have to quit. Like, I can't do this anymore. I have to quit. Like, I can't do it. It's too much. Like, it's too much of me being here for my first, like, being here in the States, not really, like, not having a foundation, not having anything to stand on, trying to play basketball, trying to go to school, trying to learn about this new culture that I've just been placed to myself in. And she was like, you know what? She's like, yeah, you're right. You need to, walk away. And as soon as I walked away, I felt like this weight lift off from me. Like, whew, okay, now we can figure out where to go next. And so once I finally let that go, I got a job, a student job, as the sports operator, which operations basically behind the scenes. We did stats, we did the scoreboard, and I made friends through that. Like, I made friends with like lacrosse people, made friends with the baseball guys, all of it. Like, it was just so much fun doing that job, and that job connected me with so many people who are so awesome and so amazing. It was just really fun to be there and like see, like, hang out with them and meet new people from like different walks of life. And so I started to really start to enjoy myself. And then further down, I decided to do, don't judge me, guys, but I am a Jonas Brothers fan, and Nick Jonas was coming that year, my sophomore year in college. And I decided to sign up because if you signed up, you got to meet Nick Jonas, you got to meet BB Rexa, take a picture with them, and I got his signed, I got a signed poster on the side of my fridge. So, and I got a signed poster. I was like, okay, let's go. Like, I'm ready. Let's do it. Ended up signing up for that. Made a couple of friends. I met another military brat that was going to Methodist University, and we became friends. And she's one of the coolest people I know, one of the most awesome people I know. She took me under her wing because she is a year older than me. She was like my big sister. And I started hanging out with her. I started hanging out with a couple of her other guy friends as well, football players. And we would go work out together, all of it, hung out with them. And that is honestly when, like, my school years turned around. I became friends with like the tennis players, and it was just like all across the board. Like, it was just something new for me. I was like, oh, like all these different people to get to know and like laugh with, and people in class and stuff, and still some of the basketball girls I would hang out with. And so it was just so much fun to finally feel like I was stepping into my own. I still have my spouts of depression when I was down. Oh yeah. I had times where like I would just be sitting, weird enough, where I would just be sitting in my room just in the dark crying. So yeah, like, it wasn't perfect, but I do know I was getting out of it. It doesn't happen overnight. But it took like me finally getting out there and talking to people and learning more about myself and seeing that, I woke up this morning, I went out, I made a new friend, by my junior year, I made friends with like, one of the soccer players, and we decided to all stay in the apartments together. Now my sophomore year, I stayed in the apartments, and I had my own room and my own bathroom, guys. My own room and my own bathroom my sophomore year. The reason being was because I moved out of my other apartment. It was just too many problems in my other, not apartment, in my dorm. I was sharing a room and a bathroom. It was just too many problems. And I moved out, and she said, the lady who does the rooms, she was like, Gina, you know what? I like you. And at the time, I was still on the basketball team at the time. And she said, you know what? This is going to be good for you. Sophomores don't typically get apartments, but there's one with Allison, who was on the basketball team at the time. And you guys can, share apartments, and then it'll be good for basketball and stuff. It'd be good for you. And so I was like, okay. And so I go, and I get there, I have my own room, I have my own bathroom, and then we just share a kitchen. And it was actually the best apartment. That sophomore year was rocking. We had good times in that apartment. Not gonna lie. Junior year was pretty good. The apartment, I had to share a bathroom. That was pretty difficult. But other than that, things were good. And then my senior year, I finally got my apartment by myself. And so my junior year, Stephanie, Radke, and them, they had all graduated. So they weren't really coming on campus anymore other than to work out. So I would see them to work out together because, as long as you have your student ID, you can still get onto the what's it called? The campus. And so they could still, work out there and stuff like that. So they would come work out with me, and we would work out together and laugh, and we'd have dinner sometimes together. And me and Stephanie would do girls weekend or girls day on a Saturday, and we'd go get our feet done. And then we'd go get Miyabi Juniors, and we would go get frozen yogurt. And that would be that was our legit, every time it would be get our feet done, one of us would pay for that. Go get food, one of us would pay for that. And then frozen yogurt, one of us would pay for that. And so it was just every time, boom, boom, boom. And it was so much fun. It was the girl time that you needed. So it was a good time. And then my senior year, I kind of buckled down. I definitely buckled down, where I focused on school a lot, because I wasn't playing basketball, and it was my senior year. I wanted to make sure I passed all my classes, because every year up till then I was doing summer school. Your girl was doing summer school, and she finally, you guys, you gotta clap for me real quick, she finally passed English her second semester. No, I'm just kidding. My first semester, my sophomore year, and then my second semester, sophomore year as well. There was a new teacher in town. He was a really cool dude, and he was not caring about the punctuations. He just cared about the writing and the subject, and if you got the context of the book of where we were reading, and it was awesome. To be honest, if I could go back, I would have Bianca probably write my papers, because she was smart as I don't know what. Just kidding. Don't cheat. I am not endorsing that guy. But I would have had her at least check over my papers to make sure the punctuations were in the right places, because she got A's every time. She was just killing it. She went to school for accounting too. Girl's super smart. But I finally, got through that. And then, was it my junior year? I was. Okay, so my junior year, I also, sorry, I'm trying to remember my life in college. And it wasn't even that long ago. But, what was it? I'm 27. It was quite a bit. It was 5 years. A lot happens in 5 years, which it has. But I finally got through all that. But then I decided to sign up for another English class, because I wanted to go on this trip to Europe, to London. I wanted to go back to Europe. And so I signed up, and they're like, yeah, we're gonna take I think it was a week or two in England. And I was like, let's go, let's do it, let's get it. And hit up some friends because I had some friends in England at the time. I had two friends that were doing their abroad time in England, and I had another friend who's from England, and she was there at the time. Or she was there. And so I had met up with two out of the three friends, and I hung out with them. We had a good time. It was such a good time to just reconnect again with military brats and that life that of people who grew up where you grew up and having that connection. It was just so much fun. And then hanging out with the people that I came to London with also was so much fun. We had so much fun doing the tours and all these different things that we did. And we went out on the town one night, a couple nights actually. It was so much fun. I had a good time. Looking back at, college, it was the worst of times and the best of times at the same time. But yeah, that was my junior year. And then my senior year, I just buckled down on classes because I wanted to make sure that I graduated on time. A lot of the girls that I played basketball with or was doing schooling with, because basketball was so demanding, they ended up staying a semester or maybe even a year. And I was like, that's not going to be me. I am not going to stay another year. I can't. I can't do that. And so I made sure to do summer classes and just buckled down my senior year. And I ended up graduating on time, guys. Yeah, I had my own apartment. And it was a blessing. I needed my own space. I needed my own apartment. So my parents said, okay, you focus on school. We'll get the apartment. And so I focused on school. I graduated on time. My Methodist University is not cheap. So I wanted to make sure that I didn't have to cost my parents another, year of money. I do have a little bit of debt. I don't have a lot of debt. So that's the blessing, but I do have enough of it where I do have to just be a lot smarter with my money. So, yeah, I graduated with my sports management degree with a minor in entrepreneurship and international business. And then after I graduated, I moved to Georgia because my mom had finally come back 2 years before I graduated, and I moved in with her, and I did my master's degree while I was here, or while I'm still here. I don't know why I'm acting like I left or something. Trying to though, but I did my master's degree 2 years, and I graduated with that in 2020. And so I have my master's in business administration. The one thing I would do would be go back and change that to a marketing degree. That would be smart. Marketing is just it's all over the place. Marketing is always needed. There's always going to be a space for somebody to do marketing. You always need new ideas, different things like that. So it would have been a smart thing to go into. But yeah, I was being a lot happier. I started to work with the kids in the before and after care with the military brats on post, and I was working there at the before and after care, and I had fun. I loved the kids, loved the kids, and I was the gym person. I am not an arts. I am not a crafts. I am not a computer person, and I am not a game room person. Oh, you know what? Every now and then I was in the game room. I'm not gonna lie, I did enjoy playing cards with those kids and beating them, but I was always the gym is me. Any type of activity, I would beat them in basketball. We played dodgeball, played kickball. We did it all. And so I was in charge of the gym for about a year or two. I was in charge of the gym for a year, and I really saw how generation has changed a lot. I also saw kids going through what, a couple of my friends were going through, but at the time, mental health wasn't as talked about. And so, it just kind of got swept under the rug. In high school, I had friends who harmed themselves, who cut themselves, and sometimes contemplated about committing suicide. I know I did one time in high school. I contemplated about committing suicide when I was deep in depression. And, you get on them about it and be like, don't do that. Why are you doing this? But it wasn't talked about, and there wasn't It wasn't this thing mental health was not this thing that was talked about. And growing up for me, it was not a good thing, and obviously, having those mental issues is not a good thing, but it's not, we all go through our problems, it's not something you should be ashamed of. And that's what mental health brought at the time, because the perception of it was, oh, you have mental health issues, you need to go to a mental health or like a mental ward. And that isn't the case, and so, you would feel ashamed about doing these different things when, it's more, if you talk about it and we can talk through these things, it can change a lot of things in life. And, looking back at it now, and I'll talk about this in a future episode, but, we didn't know how to be there for one another in high school or in middle school, we didn't know how to be a better friend. Now we do now. Like, we didn't have the information then that we do now. And I'm hoping this podcast can help with that, help fill in those gaps of information that we don't have, and to help the next generation of military brats have these conversations without feeling ashamed, without having these stigmas, and without looking at the positive parts of what it is of being a military brat, which is amazing. Being a Dandelion, represents hope, strong, and resilience. But, there's weeds. We have weeds, it comes with anxiety, it comes with depression and stuff like that, sometimes because of what our family does or what our parents do. And, we need to talk about that. And so I'm hoping to destigmatize that with this podcast. But, yeah, once I finally graduated with my master's degree, not too long after, I got the job that I have now, which I work now for the VA and, helping out our veterans. I am ready to move into the next phase of my life because money makes the world go around, right? And right now, inflation and my paycheck are not looking the same. So I've been looking into other jobs to do. Also want to get more into the travel and the travel realm and the sports realm in those two areas. But I also want to focus more on this podcast and more on this, the mental health and resources for military brats. And so if I can really get into this and start traveling to the different installations, it would be amazing, to do. But over the last, what we're at, 2019, I lost one of my friends that I was going to see in England. My English friend, I lost her in 2019. That was really hard for me when I found out. Me and her were really close in middle school, really close. I used to drop her off at home, at her house, on the way to like basketball, because she was on the way to my my basketball club team for like practices and stuff. So she would be able to hang out longer and didn't have to take the bus home, so we could hang out longer and we could drop her off at home. I was really close to her family, her sister, her brothers, her mom. Amazing family. I love all of them. And when I found it out, like, my heart it broke, it sank, and I didn't know what to do. And I had never lost somebody that close to me before. And so when it happened, I fell apart, and I fell apart for a very long time. And as soon as I was starting to put myself back together, I find out that my pop had died, like maybe 6 to 7 months later. And he was my grandfather, like the ultimate grandfather. Amazing man, loving man, who wasn't blood related to me, but acted like he was. Like, he's like, that's my granddaughter. You know, he had Alzheimer's, but he remembered me until the day he died. He never forgot my face. He never thought that I was a little girl. He always knew that, like, I was like this 25-year-old at the time. He always knew my age. He always knew my name. He would be confused. And he would talk about him being on the ship because he was also in the military. He was in the Coast Guard during the time of World War II. And he got stationed in Hawaii. That was his first place to get on the ship, the destroyer. I have on my arm, it says Berry Creek 252. And that was the name of his ship. That was the nickname of his ship. And 252 was the number in honor of him. And he would always remember going on the ship, and he would try to run away from his nursing home all the time. And my mom would always get calls and be like, he did it again. And my mom would get on the phone with him. She'd be like, Pop, what did we talk about? And he'd be like, what? I gotta get on the ship. Oh, and he was adorable. He was the sweetest thing. So loving, so kind. Just had a heart full of love. And he is my biggest inspiration. He is my biggest inspiration of doing this, of wanting to create like different tiny home veteran communities around the world. He's my biggest inspiration for it. And as we know, the pandemic happened at the beginning of 2020, and the world shut down. And right when the world shut down, he caught COVID, and you know, he was 93, I believe. And so his body couldn't handle it. But I know his 25-year-old self that's in his military uniform is up in heaven walking around and laughing and smiling. And so I just, you know, he's always watching over me. Excuse me. Whew. So, yeah, after, you know, he died at the end of the year, somebody who was like a mother figure to me and a spiritual mother to me died. She was my first lady. She died, at the end of the year. It was pretty brutal, those first couple years. Oh man, it was, you know, it was death after death after death happening around me. I had another friend who committed suicide earlier that year, or earlier in 2019, and then my friend who died when she died, and then my pop, and then my first lady, and then my uncle, and then another friend who committed suicide. And so from 2019 to 2022, I was just getting hit left and right with grief and pain. And I didn't know what to do. Every time I was trying to put my heart back together about one person, my heart was breaking about another person. And it was hard. It's still hard to this day. You know, having back-to-back losses of people you loved and cherished during that time. And oh man, it could have shifted my mindset for the worst. It could have. You know, I did get in a depression, and I think that was also because at that same time, I was trying to find a new job before I got the job I got now, and so it was losing people. It was feeling like I was a failure at the time. And that was because I had started to compare my life to my mom and my dad's life, and that wasn't right. And the battery is about to die. So I will get to that in a minute. Let me switch the battery. It was hard, and I had dark days. I had good days and my bad days. But man, has it been a hard couple of years? But I knew I could go into a really dark place if I decided to just let it be and let all these losses and all the pain and grief take over me. I could easily just let it take me over and live my life in the grief and in the pain. Or I could change something. I could make a difference. I could use that pain and that grief. I could use the love and the light that all of these people brought in my life and try to make a change for the better, right? And so that's what I decided, and that's why I started this podcast. I wanted to make sure that the next generation of military brats have every single resource, somebody to talk to, so that when they get out in the world, they don't go through the culture shock that me and a lot of my friends went through. They don't feel like their foundation has been pulled out from under them, and for years they're trying to find stable ground and they can't. I want them to know that they can talk to their friends and family, Yes, we grow up in a military lifestyle in which, sometimes family seems like it's put second. And sometimes it may be because the mission has to be done. So you keep your feelings to yourself, or you don't think anybody cares. But that's not true. They care. Your parents care. Your friends care. Your family care about you. And I want to make sure people know that. I want to make sure people know that they have the resources to know that. They have the resources to get healthy again and be healthy again. And that because they have depression or anxiety or have some type of mental health issue, it doesn't mean they're broken. Well, to be honest with you, we're all broken. None of us are perfect. We're all broken. But it doesn't mean anything's wrong with you or you are abnormal. You're normal. Everybody goes through these different things. Everybody goes through depression and anxiety, and some in more extremes than others. And you need the resources to be able to be successful and have a healthy life. And I want to help with that. I want to help with that so badly. And so thus starts this podcast. Thus starts the conversation for mental health and military brats. And we're going to start figuring out how to get the resources that are already there for military brats out there, so you have them at your disposal. And we're also going to figure out how to better them. Because it is very important. And that includes communicating with friends, because I know that us as military brats, we can just be very oh, if I share this, they'll think this, and so teach you how to communicate with your friends, tell them how you feel, and not think that, you telling them that will either bother them or they'll make fun of you, but know that they'll be there for you. When you choose the right group of friends to be around you, they're not going to act they're not going to be bothered, and they're not going to make fun of you. They're going to be there for you, and they're going to comfort you. They're going to care for you, and they're going to make sure that, you get back to the healthy person that they know you are and that they love. so much, and they love you where you are now, and they're going to love you where you are when you get back to who you used to be, or even better, So this is why I started this podcast, and that is my story. And as you heard my whole story, I hope that you understand why I feel like this podcast is needed. And I hope that you understand that you're not alone. Like, that is the most important part for you to take away from my story, I pray, is that you know you're not alone. And that you are loved, you are awesome, and that you are a dandelion. You are resilient, strong, and a hopeful person, a hopeful brat. But like all brats, we have weeds, as I said before. We gotta weed them out. And so that's what this podcast is here to do. It's here to share stories so that when people hear a story, they know that they can get through that problem, and they can and bring healing into people's lives, and also share resources that are there for you to use to get better, and to create a community. Create a community of military brats, and to create a foundation where all military brats can come and have this foundation. If you're going off to college, if you're starting a new job, if you're going to a new city, this podcast, this community that's being created through this podcast, I have an Instagram, and I have a Facebook group where we can talk, and somebody can reach out and be like, hey, I'm going to this college, who's going to this college? And it can be that's what I want to create. I want to create a community, and where, like, if some other military brat's going to the same college as you can put it out there, and they can respond, and you guys can connect. Because having that foundation of knowing that you have a friend, or knowing that you like have another military brat going to the same school you're going to, or you have the same military brat that lives in the same town as you, and you guys can catch up, makes like transitions so much easier and so much better. Because knowing that you have somebody there to already support you and be there for you and be a friend for you is everything. So I want that type of community on this podcast, on Stories of a Dandelion. So that is my hope. That is what we are going to do. So if you haven't already done it, go ahead and click down below the Instagram. Go ahead and follow me on follow us on Instagram, because this is a community. Stories of a Dandelion, where you'll see all shorts of these different podcasts, as well as go to the Facebook group and go ahead and connect with us there. And I'm excited, guys. I'm really excited to start this podcast and start sharing all of these stories that are to come. But this is my story as a dandelion. And I hope that it helps somebody. Let you guys know that you're not alone. I already said it, but I will repeat it over and over again. You're not alone. You are loved. You are cherished. And you are significant, and you are needed. Know that. You are significant. Don't let it go. No matter what you're going through, know you're significant. So that's it from me. That's it for this episode. I thank you guys for tuning in. I thank you guys for listening. I thank you guys for watching. So stay tuned. Definitely go follow us right here on this podcast, Stories of a Dandelion. Go ahead and subscribe or follow so that you will be here for every Military Brat Monday. And I'll see you guys next Monday, guys. I love you all. And remember, no one understands a military brat like another military brat. Peace.